I think we can start if Merja and Charles, you would want to welcome people.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Let's say hello. Let's get going. Welcome to our show and tell. And if you want, play. My name's Charles Woolnough, and I'm going to be your host. Brief introduction about me. I've spent 30 odd years in projects, programs, and transformation. Most recently, almost 20 years working for PlayStation, but before that for various companies, big and small. I love Topaasia and what it's able to do, and I'm going to be the sort of host today. But I'm here with a wonderful person from Finland, Merja. Merja, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Merja Ranta-aho. I'm an organizational psychologist, which means that I'm very interested in how people work together. And that has been my theme during my whole of work life. 10 years I have been in the academia researching people using communication services. And I did my first research in remote work in '95. Yeah. Then the big question was, do people have to come on their remote work day to the workplace to clock their clock card and then go back home to remote work or not?
Well,
that was the big question.
It doesn't surprise me because I think I was still using Lotus Notes in 1995.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I even had a Hotmail account.
That was different times, yeah.
Yeah.
Then I went to a telecom operator, the largest in Finland, spent there 24 years working with the organization, and actually that organization built a very strong remote and hybrid work culture even before the pandemic. So the pandemic was just a kind of small switch in the way of working. And currently I'm working as an independent advisor, helping organizations to work better together.
It's great.
That's
a very different experience for me. We're broadcasting live from the wonderful offices in Soho, and the PlayStation office is one block down. Prior to the pandemic, we had to come in 5 days a week unless we had an excuse about dishwasher being delivered or something else. And then the pandemic, of course, ended up in lockdown, and we went totally virtual. And then as the offices gradually reopened, there was a bit of a, let's say, hybrid, but hybrids in a way that made sense for the team and the manager. Probably less. Felt like there's maybe less sort of organizational psychology and a little more test and learn. So anyway, we're here to talk a little bit about that topic today, and also to introduce to those that don't know it, the Topaasia game. Congratulations, you now speak Finnish. Topaasia is a Finnish word, and it sort of means top thing. It's probably not the exact translation.
Well, top is top in English.
Top is top.
Asia with one A is the thing.
Yeah.
So Topaasia sounds nice.
Sounds nice. So there's the correct pronunciation as well. And you know, Topaasia as a game is there. That it has a purpose. You know, it's from an organizational development point of view or a personal development point of view. It's there to enable you to have a dialogue and then move towards action on a number of topics. So, you know, from a team's perspective, it's a great way of discussing things that teams should discuss to agree how they work, or for an individual, being able to discuss selected topics in a way that results in you thinking about things and then taking action. The great thing about digital things is, of course, they scale normally. And so our discussion here, for example, if we were to discuss our hybrid working arrangements, that game could be replicated 10, 100, 1,000 times. And the data from that game will be captured. So for an organization, it's a great way of enabling team leaders, managers, or the organization as a whole to have a discussion and to get visibility of the outcome of that discussion. So, of course, this only works if you believe that people need to discuss their working life, but I guess let's take that as a given. And then what we're going to do is we'll have a little look at how Topaasia works in the context of Merja's research. So we'll use Topaasia, but with a a card deck, which is the sort of motif for the game, talking about hybrid working. We'll then play. Now, only Mary and I will be given the microphone, but if you're joining us and you want to join in the game, we will give you a URL, a QR code, and a game code to get in, so you can play cards with us, and you can make comments, potentially, if Jutta, the game leader, allows you, take a vote, and then we'll have a quick Q&A and wrap up in time for 11s. So we've just spoken a little bit about Topaasia. One thing to know, once you played, this will be a lot easier, but the application of the game can be in a multitude of situations. You can have group games, you can have one-to-one games. And Topaasia as a game comes with between 30 and 40 game decks. The idea of a game deck is to direct the conversation. So it doesn't tell you what to say, but it gives you topics and suggestions. We'll be playing the latest deck, which comes with Topaasia, which is developed by Merja. And like I said before, the great thing about doing something digitally is that not only does it scale, but you capture a lot of data. So we'll come back to that a bit later. And this, I think, really for you, so Merja was a client of Topaasia as well as doing her own research. I think this is one of the benefits that you mentioned about the game and how you used it in your telco.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so great that you can at the same time give individual teams a tool to discuss in the team, but at the same time, the organization is able to collect the kind of issues and solutions that all the teams invent and get an overview of what kind of topics are actually important in the organization.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something else there, which is important about this, is that I mean, I can just about run a Teams meeting if I'm running a Teams meeting, and I can definitely run a Topaasia game session. So in every session, you have a leader who makes sure that the participants play their cards and you move to completion. But the whole ethos of the Topaasia game is to make that facilitation easy. So you or I could do it. I don't know if you ever did do it in the telco.
Yeah,
you did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I facilitated numerous sessions with different people over the last few months.
Yeah, it's great to giving structure into the discussion because you can utilize the game in giving time limits for discussions, in steering topics, in giving everybody a voice through the chat function and so on. So it's more structured than just talking around.
Yeah, and I think the other thing which on the topic of play, which I think can be important, is the fact that you have statements on the cards. Gives you somewhat of an alibi to raise certain topics. Maybe if you're scared of raising a topic, or you're not sure about whether it's the right thing to say, the fact that your organization or your team leader is allowing you to say that via the card, I think makes it a bit easier to raise some of those topics as well.
Certainly. And
on the topic of play through dialogue, some of us have used Lego Serious Play in the past, and it's the same thing. It's easier to present a plastic monkey or a plastic cow and talk about something than maybe it is to talk directly to someone without any excuse. So that's really our little sort of whiz through Topaasia. Now I'm going to hand over to Merja. She's going to talk a little bit on the theme of hybrid work and share with us some of her insights. So.
Yes, thank you. So the deck we are going to use is collaboration in the hybrid work era, and therefore some short introduction about the theme so that we actually know what we are talking about. So at the moment, many times when we say the words hybrid work, we are first thinking about the individual's choice, about where do I work? So very much about the place and the individual selection. But as organizational leaders, you actually probably are much more interested in the bigger picture. So if you go to the next slide, we have actually a network of people. Some of them are in your organization. Some of them are in other organizations you collaborate with. They might be customers. They might be some partners. And all of these people are working from somewhere, together in the same place or in different places. Some of them need to be at certain places. Some of them can choose and are choosing where they are working. And then there comes the third thing, the dimensions of time. So actually, only if we are in the same place at the same time, we are collaborating face to face. But then there comes the digital collaboration, which actually is much more intense in the organizations because we have the people in different places, but also at different times. If you're in a global organization, this is everyday work for you. People are in different time zones. When you sleep, they are working. When they sleep, you are working, and you need to deal with that, and you never are in the same places together. And the thing is that actually this is not a new phenomenon per se. Some organizations have done this for decades and they have been managing it somehow. But the fact is that after the pandemic, this has become a question of how we work also in those organizations who could be in the same place at the same time, but people for different reasons choose not to do that. And therefore we are actually in the same questions, but in a more complex environment. And most of us actually are some way in connection with hybrid work. Even if you are every day at the office, you are working with people who work in a hybrid mode or with people who always are in a different place than you. So this is a question about how we organize our common work for everybody. And it's actually the idea that we are building here. It has been developing. So when I started this, my remote work research in '95, I think there were two different use cases of remote work. One is the work from home thing. People did all of their work at home. And that was the agreed thing. And the systems were kind of designed for different people working from home. In Finland, that was very rare. In the US, that was more common, for instance. And then the other thing was it was an exception. Well, we didn't have the digital tools for that then, but you could, if you could reason that, well, today I need to read this bunch of papers and I can do that at home. You could agree with your supervisor. Well, I'm going to be today at home or wherever I am, and I'm reading these papers. So very exceptional way of work. That broadened to employer-controlled remote work, and it was kind of a perk for those jobs where you actually could also come to the office. And the idea was that, well, the workplace didn't actually see much of benefit other than that the employees liked it. So it was kind of a benefit, and therefore it could be done for some amount of time. We got the pandemic, and then of course we had the time of forced remote work for quite many people, and that actually changed our default settings. This was actually an important thing when we kind of returned from the pandemic conditions to understand that before the pandemic, the default was coming to the office, and you chose deliberately if you would stay home. But that default had changed. If you are working some maybe months or even over a year in a certain setting, that changes the way you are thinking. So the default actually was I'm at home, and when I go to the office, it's a deliberate decision, unless your organization did some kind of structuring of that work. And after the pandemic and partly during the pandemic, the emphasis was very much on the individual autonomy of hybrid work, and of the benefits of the individual and of the team to being able to choose. It gave freedom. It was a sign of trust. And it was much for the benefit of the people. And again, there was some benefits also for the organization recognized, but it was more like, well, the individual benefits from working from home or being able to choose. And maybe the organization didn't see so much benefits in allowing that, other than that the people liked it and wanted to stay with organizations who allow that. But now after the pandemic, we actually are slowly getting some research data about what really happens with hybrid work. And that wisdom is slowly starting to accumulate. And what we see now is that researchers have actually found out that in some types of work, actually working from home, where you can concentrate better, is more beneficial for the outcome of the work. And for some use cases, it's better that people come together. And that is now the kind of evolving way of thinking about hybrid work. What kind of work should we come to do together, and when would be actually better for the results of the work to stay at home or wherever you are working and be in your own concentrated bubble? And now this challenges, of course, all the people doing their choices every day. Do I make the choices only based on my personal preferences of I like to work at home or I like to come to the office? Or do I actually steer my work based on the activities I need to do? And when I'm doing that, do I sync it with the other organization? So that, well, if I go to the office to meet the others, are the others there also?
And just from your experience, or you're obviously close to research, are companies taking a sort of top-down senior management JP Morgan style? I mentioned Jamie Dimon or Tim, however he pronounces his name, or are they looking to try and bring the staff along with the discussion? Get at least a sounding board of people. How do you think those discussions about return to office, or what constitutes hybrid, are being carried out?
We see different versions of that. So we see quite a lot of this top-down approach. Companies who do top-down mostly seem to find it very difficult to say top-down, please think about your work, because, well, that is a very vague, a very kind of difficult guideline to give. So it's mostly going to, well, we expect you to be this and this many days at the office, and then hope that teams will resolve by themselves when they actually are coming to the office and what they are going to do there. Then we see other companies giving full freedom to teams. They come kind of from the different direction to the situation, where again they need to also foster a discussion of, well, but make your choices so that it also benefits the working. Because we are slowly seeing some also negative results of too intense hybrid working. I think the consensus is that somewhere between half and half hybrid, so office and remote work, that would be the optimal, where the individual benefits of hybrid of remote work, the individual benefits of meeting the others, and the organizational benefits of efficient working are kind of in the optimal place, of course, depending on work. But this doesn't happen unless the organizations really take a conscious look about how they are working. And very much of how this rolls is how the everyday, the everyday work and its frictions and tensions, how that goes along.
Yeah. And so I think on that topic, this could be a good opportunity to move on and see one of the ways that teams and organizations can get this insight.
And one point here is that usually we think that, well, management is responsible for organizing the work, but the more you have autonomy as a worker, the more you also must carry responsibility of your choices. You cannot imagine having full autonomy but no responsibility. So it's everybody's sake to make it work together.
Yeah.
And that's where we need the discussions.
Yeah.
So it's collaboration, like, well, business as usual, but just in a more complex setting than formerly.
That we had before.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, it's not enough to say, well, we have this and this rhythm of working and everything is done. No, there the discussion starts about how it really goes in the everyday work.
Okay. I think this is our final slide, I think, before we start the deck. So
exactly. Yeah. So
this one.
Just to position this Topaasia deck.
Yeah.
It will not go to the long-term effects, because that time only will tell. It's just not soon enough to have so much data what the long-term effects on organizations are. And of course, you can see the immediate results right now. But then there is this gray area about the tensions of every day. If you just click there. So if you make visible the things that annoy people, that make them happy, and so today, and that affected today's working climate, and so that is what this deck tries to make visible.
Yeah, and it whenever people talk about teams and teamworks, teams how teams work together, it reminds me of the quote from Tolstoy. So all happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way.
Exactly.
So always with a, you sort of, people instinctively know what makes a good team or good working environment. But then, like you say, the little frictions, the differences, these are the things that have to be ironed out, and they're probably different for every team.
Exactly.
So this is the bit certainly I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
I enjoy this.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna stop sharing, and I think Jutta is going to be giving us a game code. So if you can join on your mobile, you can join on your laptop. Probably the easiest way to do is to join on the mobile, scan the QR code. If you're having a problem with the QR codes, let us know, put your hand up. But you just go to play.topaasia.com, and unfortunately, Merja and I are going to be the ones doing the discussion. Everyone else is still going to be on mute, sadly. But you'll be able to play your cards, and quite possibly when we see your cards, we'll be excited to discuss those topics instead of the ones that we're doing. So we'll sort of guide you through. You'll be able to play. You'll be able to see the game mechanics. We'll talk a little bit about the content that comes up. So it's a sort of, you get a good flavor of what the game's like. So for every game, we need a game leader, which in this case is Jutta. So Merja and I are joining as participants, and I think we won't wait too much longer because of time.
No,
so
yeah.
we've put a few people on. Jutta, do you want to start the game?
Let's just do it. So we have walrus and butterfly. As you see, it's the aliases or the anonymous way of playing, but I guess since it's the two of you, maybe you can reveal which one is which. Who's the walrus?
Yeah.
But
I can see that there are 6 of us.
Yeah.
Really?
From the phone, so it can be just some.
Let's see. Oh my goodness! I had just to refresh my page. Thank you, Jussi. So wow, we have hats and elephants and everything. We have the whole zoo here. So let's just get started. I think. Great.
Yeah,
Excellent.
that's, by the way, one benefit of the game, because here you can just talk and vote with the issues, with the facts, without the knowledge of who is actually saying what.
Some people really want you to know that it's them, but I like you. I like the anonymity of who it is. So I thought it was one of the best features of Mural when I started using Mural.
Yeah.
And also people often talk about icebreakers in games, but even just being a squirrel or an elephant or an otter or whatever is quite a good icebreaker. So Jutta, let's start the game. So the game leader starts the game, and then what you guys will see on the phones, guys and girls, see on the phones, is a little prompt to say deal cards. So what we're doing now is we're using the cards of the, 50 odd cards, 30 odd cards that Merja has done, and what you're getting when you press deal cards is a selection from that deck, sort of randomly generated. So this is a little bit about what makes it a game. Bit of random generation, and so the idea of this is to look through these cards on the topic of hybrid work and on the perspective of what's important about hybrid work, and select one. So eventually you're going to say, I have to put my glasses on, what is something which I believe is important about hybrid work. You're going to select that by pushing on it. If you see nothing you like, because we've only given you 5 cards, you can change the cards. If you scroll down, there's a little button. So if you look at those cards and you think, this is not for me, or I want to have a look at more at the deck, you can press change cards, and then you have the option to change individual cards, or you can just press change all. So I'm taking my time. I'm looking through these things, and eventually we're gonna select the cards each, and then there'll be a big reveal by the game leader once we've all selected.
Yeah. And today we chose to have the important tomorrow. So what do you think is important in the future for hybrid work? But you can have different viewpoints, and usually you do at least a couple of rounds with a different viewpoint. Everyone looks so concentrated. Okay.
Okay, so
we have all the cards.
Yeah, so you can see that the game leader sort of has these checkpoints to reveal the cards, and the idea is when you're facilitating this dialogue is that your team are going to be picking cards. The bigger the team, the more chance there are of the same cards. We may or may not have the same cards, but now the game leader reveals, and we can all see what's being played.
Very exciting.
There is a double here.
So now, as a participant, you have to show. We have to be showing you, but you have to show the pick cards. And then, in a normal game, those of you who are silent on the webinar would be participating. But now Merja and I are going to have a look through these and have a look at things. Now, you can see which card you picked, but as you can see from the game leader, there's no attribution of cards at this point. So I'm having a look through things. I'm not going to say which one I picked, but I do think that the one about agreed ways of working just resonates with me, because I think the number of projects I've been on where we agree the way of working, and then about 3 days later the way of working disappears up in smoke, and we have to agree a new way of working. Really resonates with me.
Yeah, it is. And I think there the kind of pitfall is that if you don't discuss first why it is not working, then you might just do futile work in designing new ways of working. Because if it's just kind of a lack of self-discipline, or that you need some time to learn the new ways of working, then it doesn't make sense to invent again new ways of working, and you are again in a new learning curve.
And I could think of some other situations where essentially the ways of working were almost dictated, and there's an easy way of putting in your passive resistance by not adopting the ways of working.
Exactly. And well, we all know that changing your ways of working is really difficult, so it doesn't happen like this.
Yeah. And so Merja, any cards here that you think really feel like a very important, or the most important card to pick?
Well, actually, here are many of my favorite cards, I have to say.
Right.
Yeah.
You did make the deck.
Well, I did, but all of the 52 are not my favorites.
Not all children are favorite children. I must say that.
Especially if you have 52. But yeah, so I think the out of sight, out of mind, that's actually a phenomenon that people talk about quite a lot. So if there are persons in your team who are present where you are present, it's easier to remember them when you have a nice kind of promotional job to do, or if you have some interesting opportunities. And it doesn't actually have to be because of remote working. It can also be that your team is on 2 sites, and you just easily remember those who you see, and that's a human trait, and you need to fight that as a manager. Consciously kind of think about all of your team.
Yeah. So stepping a little bit back from the game, as game leader, you can choose to write down these comments. So Jutta could be capturing our comments while we're having this. Jutta could open up the rounds. We had comments as game leader. Jutta could also sort of channel us now into actually picking what we think the top one of these issues is that we as a team want to do something about. And we can do this by 2 ways. Jutta could actually be sort of summarizing or dictatorial, or she can open up a vote. I don't know whether do you want to open up a vote, or are we going to
Shall we have a go? Let's have a go. So what everyone thinks, and you can also there, your participants can now join. So what do you think is for you the most important? You don't have to choose your own card. That often happens, but you don't have to. So creating the vote, so you will see now on your screens or your phone screens that you can choose one of the cards. Just remember to press vote. And as a game leader, I can see who's already done.
Who is that?
Wow,
Squirrel? Thank
you're
you,
fast.
Squirrel.
You're fast. Showing the results. Okay. And then here you could obviously then continue the discussion between these two and maybe even vote again.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd like to comment because some of the participants had written a comment on the card that they had chosen, and that was a very good one, actually, for the enthusiasm card. That's one of the picks here.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get people excited these days when they just want to focus on doing and getting things done. The comment was that, well, actually, getting things done is the thing that many people are excited about, and that's really true.
Yeah.
So I think this is a more general question of how much of this kind of meta work we need to do or endure. How much do we need to talk about collaboration instead of getting things done?
Yeah.
How much do we spend time on talking about how we work versus actually doing the work?
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting comments from some of the Topaasia case studies is that having the discussion this way, and we'll see, we get the sort of focus on action, is a great ROI in the time you invest. So you can do this in, you can set up the game in 2 minutes. You can have the session in probably 15 to 20 minutes if we were having a longer session.
Yeah.
And then hopefully what you end up with is agreed actions and a choice about what to do something. So keeping that meta discussion down to a meta minimum.
Exactly. And actually having people to write the comments is a very efficient way to gather many opinions. Because if you think someone will spend 2 minutes in explaining their view, it takes 30 seconds to write it down. It takes 30 seconds for the others to read it.
Yeah, and like we said before, it's all captured. I know I had a nightmare with trying to do all this in no offense to Mural, it's a great tool, but I remember hosting these sort of virtual workshops with sort of 80 to 100 people, and then piecing together the post-it notes and trying to remember the context was sort of a bit of a hard work. This obviously is a lot more specific to the card, so you already have at least some context. So let's in the interest of time, let's wrap up this round. So Jutta, do you want to move forward, and let's say you pick whatever.
I'll just be the dictator here. I'll choose this. So we're gonna move on because it was chosen double already, so it's kind of like 4 votes altogether. So confirm choice. Normally you would maybe do another round. I will just show for the interest of this, like, because we have a time pressure, you could easier work as a facilitator by doing this. But you want to explain the crystallization?
Yeah, so as we said, the point of this game is to encourage dialogue and then crystallize it into action. So on the platform, having chosen the Topaasia, and if we've done 3 rounds, we might have to now make a discussion about if those 3 is the number one thing, because you can only end up with one thing in this game. We're now going to have essentially a little bit of reflection in the crystallization, and then we don't need to fill in all these items, but as Jutta scrolls down, you can see that there's additional sort of reflection questions, and then one of the elements in the form that we can complete is actions. So we've had a lovely dialogue. Everyone's expressed themselves via cards and notes and whatever else, and votes, and then we can crystallize 2 actions and keep track of those actions. And then the game concludes. We don't have to wait for the timer.
No. Just one lovely feature I want to show you. because this is my favorite. You can now see that you could get post-its. Post-its, and something happened here. I was trying to be cheeky, but let's see. Okay, so you could also ask for comments silently first and then let people discuss. But yeah, one more thing. But now if I finalize, we've had a great crystallization, everyone's happy, finalizing the game. And as a player, you will now get a little feedback, so you can add stars, but you can also get the whole notes, everything we've done, all the cards we've chosen, all the actions we've decided on as a game report. And we don't have too much in there now, but you can kind of see what it would look like. So you would have all the cards, all the notes, so nobody has to actually take post-its or anything like that. So it's all automatically here.
Yeah, and I think just to reiterate, the way that we set up the game, if you want to set this game up for a large organization, you can fix the perspectives and you can fix the deck. That enables you to replay that game multiple times. And as you clearly, if 5,000 people in an organization play this, you're going to get a lot more insight into what the trends or focuses, or you know, maybe what the differences are between teams' perspective or the top choices. So we won't show that today. That's part of a sort of admin functions that are on the back end, but hopefully that has given you an idea as a participant and with a little bit of a view into what the game leader and what the organization can take out of the game. So it's going to finish at 10:45. So probably a little bit about the outcomes. Maybe Merja, you know, as a client of Topaasia, when you were with the telco, you could give us maybe a couple of minutes on your thoughts about using it, and then we'll do questions.
Yeah, I'm going to mention two different use cases where we have been using that. One is with my own leadership team, where we use Topaasia for developing how we work together in a session. And I have to say that the deck we were using at that time, which I think it was the system intelligence deck, was really insightful in giving us perspectives of collaboration that we wouldn't have been thinking before. So one thing is the choice of the deck. Then the other thing is we played it anonymously. And that meant that, well, we also used the commenting function. It meant that all the comments were assessed by their merit and not by who said it. Yeah.
Could you tell who said it?
Yeah. And it's like, as a leader, when you see that the viewpoint that you thought was the most important, and you see the others vote for something totally different, that is really enlightening and humbling. And seeing that from a bigger organization also, okay, these are the things people think important. That is.
So that was the leadership team, and then
then the other was the strategy process. So going through the updated strategy in a customer service organization. So it's not a usual organization to kind of use the game. It gave much more space to actually discuss those things that were important for those people in their work. Because again, strategy means so different things for different people, and bringing that into everyday work life is so important.
And for those, so just to give some idea of the scale, I can imagine leadership team was probably, I don't know, maybe
10-ish.
10, And then for the bigger thing around customer services, how many people were you talking?
500-600.
And who was running those sessions? So who were the game leaders?
The team leaders.
So team leaders were doing
So no consultants needed. Just the game.
And apologies to any. I'm also a consultant, so it's not anti-consultant, but it just, I guess, reinforces a little bit how it's quite easy to set up as with the guardrails, with the deck.
Exactly, and of course we needed someone to help us set the whole thing up.
Yeah.
And to think about what kind of a deck to use, how to build a specific deck for that instance, and so on. But then it's actually many times the question of, do we do it or not? If you need external consultants for each session, it just might be something that's not feasible.
You just don't do.
Yeah.
Okay. So So probably more on the front end,
Mhm.
designing the program,
Mm,
the execution can be
Yeah.
within the organization.
And maybe training the managers, right?
Yeah. Check in. Okay, I think we've got just a couple of minutes for questions if there are any. I guess they would go into the chat. Is anyone, Jutta, have you got any, you see any questions there, or is everyone trying to get out as quickly as possible?
No questions. I just added a link to the different decks that are already there if you want to, because Merja mentioned system intelligence, and so if you want to look what's already done. But no
Great.
questions so far. No, everything's clear.
Well, I think that in that case, let's give everyone 3 minutes of their day back and wrap up the session. So thanks very much for people who joined. Thank you, Merja. Thank you, Jutta, for being a dictatorial game leader. And thanks everyone for joining. So goodbye, and I think we're going to end the event.
Yes. Have a nice rest of the day.
Have a nice day. Bye.